afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the 100 organization and the Qatar Foundation for inviting me today. I'd like to let everybody know that giving these Zoom conferences is tricky because we often can't see you and we can't exchange. So there will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And please feel free to ask all questions. I love questions, and it's one of the frustrating things about giving these conferences is that we don't have the direct contact with you. So let me give you a little bit of background. I'm the head of L'École Koenig, which is a musical preschool and a music school in Paris that opened its doors in 1986. The preschool and kindergarten, the musical preschool and kindergarten opened their doors in 2008. So when we say musical preschool, we often get blank stares or questions such as, the children play music all day? Oh, so they don't learn anything else? And our answer is simple. The children learn everything through music, from social skills to literacy, mathematics, history, geography, self-regulation, attention, and most importantly, empathy. How did this all come about? I'm a classical musician, and I created the music school in Paris in 1986. As the school grew, I became fascinated with infant musicality and began developing programs for younger and younger children. Now we even have classes for parents and newborns. What I was seeing in children enrolled in the weekly music classes was extraordinary. Incredible pitch, rhythm, innate creative ability, and the retention from week to week was off the charts. So I began thinking, what if children can learn in music every day? What if music could be the vector for all learning? So with my courageous staff, we opened a musical preschool. At the time, I was immersing myself in the world of science, particularly neuroscience. What I found was thrilling and transformative. An exciting and growing body of research was illuminating the science behind what we were seeing daily in our young students. Everything was pointing to the extraordinary benefits of musical practice in early childhood. In 2014, I was invited to be a fellow at the Salzburg Global Seminar, and an entirely new chapter in my life opened. Salzburg Global organizes conferences on matters of global importance, bringing together people from all over the world to reflect, learn from one another, and bring about change. This conference was entitled The Neuroscience of Art. And of the 40 participants, half were artists and half were scientists. The resulting collaborations with neuroscientists from all over the world have allowed me to corroborate, deepen, and strengthen my understanding of the human mind and the vital place that music occupies in our human construction. I found this research so exciting, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. So I wrote The Musical Child, which was recently published in the US and the UK, and is currently being translated into Chinese, French, and many other languages. We have over 3 decades of research confirming that musical practice in early childhood has extraordinary effects in all areas of our children's development. Music acts as a magnet for attention and engagement. Children are not even aware that they are working when they learn through music. The following are among the powerful and sometimes unknown effects of musical practice, documented via longitudinal studies. Musical practice develops focus, pro-social skills, and self-regulation in all children. And these qualities positively influence a child's life more than IQ. Literacy and music are linked. Music fine-tunes children's awareness of pitch, rhythm, and phonological structures. Music requires synchronization. One cannot make music with others without being physically, cognitively, intuitively, and emotionally in sync. Musical practice develops observation and cooperation, and it helps children become a we at an age when I generally prevails. Musical memory is the last to go in life, even among people with Alzheimer's or dementia. Music enters our long-term memory store more than spoken language, making it a powerful ally for all learning. These are only a few examples of the scientific discoveries of the last decades. The importance of this research is capital. All children would benefit from a musically infused education if it were available. We believe this innovation has the potential to change early childhood education on a global scale. We are a musical species. We know this because music exists everywhere on the planet, and almost without exception, we are born with innate musical skills. Out of curiosity, how many of you believe this about yourselves? You can answer me later. I'm now going to give you a glimpse into young children's innate musical expertise and creativity, and I think you will find it remarkable. We call this musicking. It's not music lessons, it's the act of creating music. Let's start with what I call musical scribbling. We give children paper and crayons very early on, and we marvel at the scribblings that represent absolutely nothing. Little by little, a face emerges, the rudiments of a human body or an animal, and we jump for joy. There is an equivalent in music. We call it musical scribbling. I'm going to show you an example of it among the hundreds of videos parents send me every year. So Raki, can we have our first video?
On va à crèche. Les patins avec la crèche. Il pleure à la crèche et il fait pas peur pour les enfants. Il est pas tant mignon et invalide. Il est pas tant mignon et mauvais. Il est pas tant mignon comme ça. Il est pas tant mignon. Il est pas mignon. Il est pas tant mignon. Il est plus en mignon, mais il fait un mignon. Il dit un mignon. Il fait peur à personne. Il fait peur à personne.
Thank you, Raki. Let's look closely at what we just seen. Philippine is almost 3 years old. She is singing very much in tune, and her approximative piano accompaniment is lovely. She's, of course, just making all of this up. She's loosely recounting her day at the crèche with a melody that reflects basic song structure. This means that she is staying in a 7-note scale range, and she uses the melodic repetition found in children's songs all over the world. There's a clear emotional climax as well. All children express emotion with music. If given the opportunity, they will create musical stories much like this one. They will hone their abilities through experimentation and play. Regarding innate musical expertise, one of the most salient examples of this is the way children instinctively seek low and loud sounds to represent fear or a threat. In the same way, they use higher, softer sounds for fairies and safety. They are relying on their highly developed autonomic system, fight, flight, freeze, the very same area of the brain that informed their ancestors that a loud and low sound might very well mean danger. Can we have the second film, Raki?
What else are you going to play? Can you play something happy?
I'm playing a princess, a raven.
A raven for a princess. Oh, what's that?
Thank you, Raki. That'll be enough.
It's the wind.
I love that video. Another part of children's innate expertise and their sensitivity is their sensitivity to pitch, hence their ability to name notes. This may surprise you, but when children are introduced to musical notes in the appropriate manner, they learn to identify them as easily as they identify colors. I'll show you how we do it, and I'm going to show you that I'm not using anything very sophisticated. This is a tiny little xylophone, but we play games with pitches, giving them personalities. So here we go. Do, mi, no. Do, do, mi, no, do, do, mi, no. Ray, a rainbow. Me, meow. A phantom. Sun, the sunshine. And as a result, we can walk into a room, plunk out one pitch, and the children will answer. That was a fa phantom. Do, do, mi, no. Believe it or not, they all managed to do this, and actually quite quickly. This might look like we're trying to do sophisticated ear training for perfect pitch. This is not the case. This kind of ear training leads to what I call natural and social rapport with music. If I can hear your song and you can hear my song, we can sing together. In addition to the ability to name musical notes correctly, sometimes called perfect pitch, our students also identify musical elements such as major and minor. That's a minor motif, and children identify it immediately. Major motif, and again, children learn to identify this very, very quickly. Now we're going to see how all this oral training affects literacy. Many people have a hard time imagining how music affects language development. I know I did, until I understood that language may have come from our first musical experiences or cries. Both music and language in their primal form allowed our ancestors to communicate and share information. Our species began their unique journey to what are today extraordinary linguistic and musical abilities. We need to remember in both cases that the origins of music and language are entirely oral. Many of us have already experienced this overlap between music and speech. The words to a song we learned in early childhood will come back to us effortlessly and with absolute clarity decades later. Sometimes these lyrics are even in a foreign language that we don't speak. There is a certain popular fascination with this overlap. For instance, you might remember the film The King's Speech, where the future King George VI of England overcame his debilitating stutter by singing. But there is a plethora of serious scientific research about this phenomenon as well. One scientific observation that you may have experienced is that song reinforces memory. It appears to gently waltz into our long-term memory almost effortlessly. I don't know about you, but as an educator, this really, really excites me. In 2009, the specialist Anirudh Patel, professor of psychology at Tufts University, published an award-winning book, Music, Language, and the Brain. His research includes the links between rhythm perception and speech, as well as emotional communication in music and speech. In 2012, Professor Patel synthesized his findings about the parallel brain circuitry of music and speech into what he calls, appropriately enough, the opera hypothesis. With Dr. Patel's permission, I have synthesized the hypothesis. So we have opera. O is for overlap. There is an anatomical overlap in the brain networks that process shared acoustic features present in music and speech. P is for precision. Music actually requires more precision in processing than speech. E is for emotion. Musical activities produce pleasure and strong positive emotions. R is for repetition. The musical activities that solicit this network are frequently repetitive in nature, as in early babbling. A is for attention. Musical activities that activate this network require and facilitate focused attention. Patel's research suggests that the oral fine-tuning developed in musical practice is so precise that it actually benefits speech and literacy. His research on rhythm patterns in speech and music indicate that rhythmic sensitivity is necessary for linguistic development. So, what did we do with all this information? We developed an entire program to link melodic and rhythmic entrainment with literacy. Let's look at this example. The children in the upcoming short film are making the direct association between musical rhythms, rhythmic notation, and words. Rocky, you can put that one on.
Croche, deux croches. Encore 3, 4. Croche, deux croches. Blanc. Blanche.
Lion, laughter, roar!
Thank you. That's a short one, but I love it. Phonological awareness is heightened through rhythmic training. And this is an example of sensory, kinesthetic, or embodied learning. Take your pick. Put simply, the whole child, body and soul, is engaged. Children clap and dance the syllables in their name, and they play early reading games using phonemes and rhythmic notation. The children translate syllables into rhythmic notation, placing the rhythm materials under the words, just as you saw in the preceding film. They do this for one another, which further enhances their engagement. Another one of our music literacy enhancers is the phonetic alphabet song. Can we have the next one, Raki?
One or two, you know what to do. Let's do it even faster. Ready? One or two, you know what to do. Wow!
Faster, faster.
Thank you, Raki. Okay, what we have just seen is an example of multimodal learning that scientists are uncharacteristically unanimous about. The children recognize the visual cue, they dance it, they sing the words, the melody and the rhythm, and repeat the essential information, the sound of the letter, not the name of the letter. Ants on an anthill, ah, 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 beautiful balloons, boom, boom, boom. When learning involves this many entry portals, it's much more likely to endure. Music provides yet another element involved in long-term memory, and this is emotion. As Patel observes, music is rarely experienced without emotion. I'm sure that each and every one of you has a memory involving music. After all, we choose music for every important occasion in our lives. Do you remember the music you chose for your wedding? The music played at the funeral of a loved one? Music is a meta phenomenon. Why would we possibly not include it in our classrooms? Moving on to math and music. There have been many claims over the past few decades about a possible relationship between music and math fluency. And often these are media misdemeanors. For instance, to explode the most basic of these neuromyths, it is not because a child practices music that they will become gifted in math. It is not because your child has musical training that they will automatically excel in math, science, or any other field. With that said, there is an organic relationship between rhythm and math that can be experienced in the body, which can help children improve their mathematical skills through musical embodied exercises such as these that we will see in the next films. Rocky, can we have film number 5?
Who is rolling through the woods? Rolling, 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 going. Oh. And suddenly, a nasty woods person, comes behind the ronde and shut. Oh. And what do we have? Shut. Blanche, 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 Blanche. Nothing terrible's going to happen. The wicked woods person is coming and shut. Noir, 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 noir. Something terrible again is going to happen and shut. Coupe. Gosh, 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 gosh. Right. Now, shall we glue them back together again? Are you ready? We're gonna glue them together and 1, 2, ready, go and noir, 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 noir. Let's go. Ready? 2, ready, go.
Thank you, Raki. We call this the Wicked Woods Person's Rhythm Game. Children love stories, and this one works much as the ancient chants that recounted the glorious exploits of heroes in the past. They're attracted to the story and the rhythmic element that goes along with it. In this case, the children embody the story of the woods person, cutting the notes in half. With older children, we can split them even into 16th notes, so a quarter of a quarter. And we also put them back together again. This kind of embodied rhythm training can lead to a visceral understanding of proportion, division, multiplication, and maybe even the concept of infinity. Understanding proportions, or the relationship of a part to a whole, is a prelude to understanding fractions. When this concept is properly introduced, young children grasp it immediately. Rhythm gives us the entry portal because it involves not only counting, multiplying, and dividing, but the sensation of each operation in our bodies. If early math training systematically involved embodiment and rhythm, I think we would see far fewer math blockages in later life. Some of you may remember struggling to memorize your multiplication tables. In the next film, you will see how rhythm and movement accelerate this process, which is otherwise arduous and dull. Can we have the next film, please, Raki? All right, are we ready?
And I'd like everyone to sing.
Okay, and I want some hand tapping too, okay? We're having fun here. Okay.
Knees, knees, knees. 1, 2, ready, go.
I got a game that I'd like to share with you.
We're gonna jump, count, and that's a lot of fun. Bumping and jumping, we're really on a run. Are you ready? Take a deep breath and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, you won. We can go further, it's so much fun. Go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, you won. Counting in tens is so much fun.
Oh, that was really good, girls.
Very good.
Thank you, Raki. The zone continues. Next come 5s, then 2s and 3s. And this is kindergarten. When we created this material, we began with the 10s in English and French. We thought we had some time in front of us, but the children memorized it so quickly that we had to move fast and produce the next tables. Think of all that is involved when the children play this game. This is multimodal learning at its best. Now I'd like to share with you something we call the orchestral model. And this has nothing to do with adults, classical music concerts, black tie suits, and concert halls. To understand this concept, let's begin with what even the most basic musicking requires. We need to be fully aware of a shared pulsation. We need to be able to synchronize with one another. And guess what? Almost all of us can do this spontaneously. The effects of synchronized movement have been studied abundantly, revealing a great deal about our human potential for empathy and cooperation. Synchronization is one of the fundamental aspects of music that distinguishes it from other artistic activities. When we are in time with one another, when we move together, when we collaborate, we feel a visceral harmony with our fellow people. We become part of our group. There is a significant body of research around synchronized movement and the development of empathy and altruism. In a fast-moving field like neuroscience, in which consensus is rare, the power of rhythm is one of the few things that scientists actually agree upon. In 2010, Michael Tomasello and Sebastian Kirchner, researchers at the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Germany, conducted a fascinating experiment with groups of 4-year-olds. They invented 2 entertaining games to be played by 2 different groups. Both games were led by enthusiastic teachers who saw that all the children had plenty of fun. Only one of the games, however, included music and required synchronization among the children. After the activity, the children from both groups were given toys. These were small tubes containing marbles that made interesting sounds when shaken. The children then had unsupervised playtime, which was filmed. The researchers had intentionally booby-trapped one of the tubes. That unlucky child would literally lose his marbles. The findings were quite clear and for some surprising. The children who had participated in the game that included music and synchronization were significantly more helpful toward the marble loser. They would more readily begin to pick up the dropped marbles and attempt to put them back into the unfortunate child's tube. Interestingly, little girls were even more likely to help with this than little boys. The children who had not experienced the musical activity were more likely to carry on playing with their own tubes. I'd like now to introduce Dr. Stefan Kölsch, a researcher in biological psychology and music psychology at the University of Bergen in Norway, also a talented violinist whose work on the neurological function of music and emotion is extraordinary and should be read by every educator and parent in the world. He's identified 7 key social functions or benefits of musical engagement, what he calls the 7 C's. With Dr. Kölsch's permission, I have synthesized the 7 C's and added classroom observations. The first C, social contact. The children are making music together. They are aware of one another intuitively and viscerally. Second C, social cognition. The children are interpreting the suggestions and intentions of their teachers and peers, as well as the emotional valence of the songs they sing. Copathy. This is Kölsch's invention. It's the plural of empathy. You only need to watch for a few seconds to notice how much the children are experiencing interpersonal bonds. They help and encourage one another continually. Next, communication. Communication is inherent in music. It is nonverbal, intuitive, and comforting. Next, coordination of actions. When children move, sing, and dance together, they do so with synchronization. They learn to adjust to be in time with one another. Next, cooperation. The children wait their turn and help one another when needed. And lastly, social cohesion. When children participate in a pleasurable musical activity, the group gels. The individuals form a family. The process takes place in the first few weeks of a school year when children are just getting to know one another. Many of them do not speak French or English, yet all of them speak music together. The 7 C's describe, in fact, precisely how an orchestra functions. Music can fine-tune children's language abilities through pre-reading oral training. Rhythmic practice sets the body and mind up for an instinctive understanding of basic mathematical functions. Music is a mega powerful learning tool when we know how to harness the energy. The orchestra is an attractive and entirely plausible model for a peaceful society. In music, as in the rest of life, we don't always play in perfect harmony, but we can learn to work together to overcome our differences and create beauty through unity. We are all struggling to prepare our children for a future that will be complex, unstable, and filled with an exponential change. Climate change, pandemics, species extinction, human migration, and artificial intelligence are going to change our children's worlds in ways that make current education models almost laughable in their reliance on ideas and belief that science has largely disproved. The skills that education specialists and philosophers consider essential today include working collaboratively with others, creative problem solving, and transferring knowledge from one field to another. Sadly, most of the schools that are integrating these considerations are only available to the wealthiest families on the planet. In order to meet the challenges of our brave new world, our societal models are going to need to change drastically. And in order not just to survive, but also thrive in this new environment, our children are going to need to find meaning and happiness in new ways. I sincerely believe that music holds the key. It's time to get back to our musical roots, to begin living and working together as an orchestra. The word itself comes from the ancient Greek orchestra, which in turn comes from orkaistai, to dance. Earlier Sanskrit and Proto-Indo-European roots include the notions of rising up and flow. I cannot think of a better metaphor for physical, emotional, and intellectual collaboration. Exactly the kinds of skills that will carry our children through the 21st century and into the 22nd. Music builds bridges instead of walls. It can contribute to more happiness and social cohesion in the coming years. Joint musical practice contributes to our deepest sense of belonging. This sense of belonging begins on day one with the first musical duet between a baby and their parents. Musicking in early childhood reinforces these feelings of security, empathy, and cooperation. We need to bring natural, joyful, joint musical practice to our homes and schools. This is how we will prepare our children to take their place in the orchestra of humankind. I'd like to end my presentation with a short film of our children discovering Japanese taiko drums, because it's important to keep in mind that what our children need most is play, joy, a sense of being together. So Raki, can you put on the last little film? Thank you, everyone. Raki, I'm not sure how we're going to do this. Can people unmute themselves for questions?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can just unmute and ask Joanne. Or you can type the question in the chat.
Okay, I see there's a bunch of things in the chat, which I'm looking at, but they're all in Arabic, sorry. Someone must have a question. Well, Rocky, if we have no questions, thank you very much for the organization and the technical help. Thank you again to 100 and to the Qatar Foundation.